The Nikon Z8 is here, and it is the best Nikon ever made.
Whoa,
hands down, no debate.
The Nikon D850, which you called the greatest DSLR of all time.
Used to be my favorite Nikon, but now we finally have something that can kick the D850's butt. I've been waiting for this moment.
Oh, and at just twice the price, $4,000, compared to, you can get the D850, 45 megapixels, better image quality, I'll prove it. KEH is where you find the best prices on gear because they have the largest selection of used gear on the planet. But it's used gear without all of the risks because they test everything. They
inspect it, and then they put their money where their mouth is. If anything goes wrong, they have a 180-day warranty period. Well, they'll make it right. There's no risk when you're shopping at KEH. You're gonna get the best price and you don't have to worry. So check them out. And you can get 5% off with the coupon code down below, or if you want to sell your used gear and get something new to you, you can use the coupon code down below and get a 5% bonus for anything you sell.
Does that mean you're going to try to sell all my F-mount gear now?
Actually, I'm going to sell your D850.
We'll see about that. We'll see.
Let's put these two cameras head to head. First of all, they're about the same size. So if you're one of those people that didn't want a small mirrorless camera, the Z8's going to be for you.
I thought the whole point of mirrorless was it was going to be small. These are the same sized cameras.
Wait. Slow down. Some people like a meatier grip. I know people with large hands. I actually have large hands, and it can be more comfortable to hold a bigger camera. And also, you know what they really nailed? The Nikon ergonomics, I think, are the best. And the Z8 has these comfortable dials in the right places. I always find them very comfortable to hold.
But the D850 has buttons along the left side, which really helps to improve the workflow when you're culling your pictures because you can use two hands.
I also like that I have this dial right here where I can set the shutter physically in an analog way instead of having to look at the top screen.
I like that I have 20 frames per second.
We'll get to that, okay?
You know what I like? I have this top screen here on the Z8, which makes it easier to look down and see what your settings are. And Tony also has a screen there, but it's like, hey, Casio watch, your screen is calling from 1980. Mine is a little more modern. It has the black background. It does not look like a Casio watch. No offense to Casio watches.
I am jealous of the top screen.
Okay.
And I do think the
Z8,
the Z8 is finally a proper sequel to the D850. Like, it feels just about as good. Whereas the Z7 and Z6 were too small, the Z9 too big. The Z8, I think they captured it. They got the handling part of it for the most part.
For the most part. They're there, baby. What are you doing? Holding on to the past?
This one dial right here is different. I miss this dial.
Holding on to the old times, Tony. It's time to move forward, and I think I need to prove that to you with a wildlife test because that's where this is going to wipe the floor with the D850. Let's go.
We have a few more things to talk about.
Let's go. I
want to talk about the sensor. Now, look right here, and what you see, that diagonal piece right there, that is a mirror, a 45-degree mirror. That is what I have that you don't have, and that's why they call it a mirrorless camera. That's what makes it a DSLR. That bounces light up to my eye optically. I have a beautiful optical viewfinder. But more importantly, that mirror also bounces light to a separate phase detect sensor. And I have to get a little nerdy here. But the fact that the sensor is doing nothing until you take a picture means that my battery life on this DSLR is much better than your mirrorless camera. And it also means that I don't have to have my autofocusing pixels on the sensor. I have them off sensor. And what we find in the real world is shooting with the Nikon or any of the cameras with the Sony-based sensors, you get weird reflections sometimes when you're shooting into the sun, which photographers do. Sunrise, sunset, especially with a fast lens, you have some pictures ruined by weird rainbowy reflections. It doesn't happen often.
Ruined is such a, you're a very dramatic man. Ruined, dead, over, like the dramatic language is too far.
It's true though, if you are just into image quality, this produces equal or better images. So for landscape photographers, etc., I would say that this is the camera to go for.
Sometimes that mirror slaps and causes the camera to shake and you get a little motion blur.
As soon as you go into live view, as soon as you go into video, I gotta admit, the autofocus is really bad.
Let's talk about
metering
video.
is bad, the exposures. I don't want to talk, like, I'm a purist. I'm a stills photographer. I literally never shoot video. I mean, other than for my entire YouTube channel
And when you were
the video clients that I have.
videoing wildlife, and you were saying this is so much fun. Mark Smith is my inspiration. I'm going to do more of this all the time in my life, and I love video.
Okay, I use video a lot. And in fact, the one time I tried to use the D850 as a video camera was when we went to Puerto Rico on that rescue mission. And I thought this would be the one camera that could do it all because it was brand new. And it was terrible. It just about ruined the entire shoot. The autofocus was unusable. I had to manually focus everything. It was great as a stills camera, but admittedly, the D850 is an awful video camera.
He's making my argument for me. This is so easy. Okay, well, let's put the argument aside a little bit. They are both excellent cameras, but this is half the price. So let's just show them what the difference is and if they need to pay $4,000 to get the camera that they need.
Yeah, I think either way, KEH is a good resource to know about because if you want to save money, the D850 is an amazing camera at half the price and you can get all your F-mount lenses used and save a bunch of money. On the other hand, if you love the Z8 and you want to go mirrorless, you can sell KEH all of your old gear, get money and apply that towards your new gear so you don't lose as much. And indeed, I did just sell a bunch of my F-mount gear because we are kind of progressing over into the mirrorless era. But I don't have to feel bad about that because all my gear is going to get a new life because you guys are going to buy it and get more life out of it.
The last comparison that we did with the D850 was with the Z7 Mark II. And the Z7 II won with portraits and things like that. But when it came to wildlife, the D850 was still better. So let's see if this mirrorless camera can beat it. It can.
All right, we'll see. We'll see.
Why don't you try that and see how you like it? You hear that?
Okay, that's pretty fast. Like
Yeah.
20 frames per second raw. That's pretty cool. Try out the D850. The D850 gets only 7 frames per second or 9 frames per second if you use the vertical grip. But I think the experience is better. Like, hold that up to your eye, and after years of shooting mirrorless, remind yourself of what it's like to use an optical viewfinder, to see the real world, not some digital representation on a pretty low resolution electronic viewfinder.
Oh, the Osprey have babies.
Oh, okay, and you can see that thanks to the super high resolution, right? Anytime I'm using the Z8 or Z9 for wildlife, I feel like the screen is a little too low res because you're so frequently concentrating on a small part of the display.
I do agree that the optical viewfinder looks nicer, but this doesn't have lag, and that's a problem mirrorless used to have with high-speed things like wildlife, and
Yeah.
it still looks good. It looks very good. Not as good as optical. I can also do silent shooting, so I'm not disturbing any animals if I'm up close. Did you hear how loud yours is?
Yeah, the D850 is especially loud, and when I shot with that professionally for wildlife, I got used to only getting one shot of a bird. Like I'd sneak up on a bird and I'd go click, and then get my shot, and then it would immediately take off. And with silent shooting, yeah, I can sit there all day and get a lot more options.
Well, it'll be noises coming from you that disrupt the birds, not the camera.
Now, when the Z9 was first launched, it did not have the 3D tracking that I learned to love on the D850. It would latch onto a subject and follow it everywhere in the frame. But they introduced it later, and the Z8 launched with 3D tracking and subject tracking. And it's not perfect.
I didn't end up using the 3D tracking. I was just using the wide area AF with subject detection, and that was what was working best for me.
The subject detection on the Z8 is really good. And I do miss that when I go back to a D850 and I am forced to, again, sort of pick the focusing point. It actually helps you pick it out. And with fast moving birds, that can be a real problem. With still subjects, like a bird perched in a branch, I feel like either camera could do good work. And in fact, if you were just shooting birds at the bird feeder, I'd probably still steer you towards the D850 as long as the noise wasn't going to disturb them because you don't need the high frame rate. You're paying twice as much here, but to get 20 frames per second and be able to shoot silent, yeah, I'll agree, that's a real advantage.
And the autofocus is better.
Yeah, I think the autofocus is better. It does a pretty good job of tracking. And I hate to admit it, but I think this is the first time we can say that Nikon has really outdone the D850 for telephoto subjects, especially for sports and wildlife. The Z8 is actually a really big win.
Whew. Aren't you so relieved?
Oh yeah, we finally can deliver some good news.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's also good news for people who have a D850 or they're looking to spend less money, because
Yeah.
the D850, 6 years old, still a really capable, functional camera for everything from landscapes, portraits, travel, sports, wildlife, everything except video, really.
I think that the other important thing we should talk about that you definitely need to consider when you're buying a camera is the lens lineup. And so far, the Z-mount lenses are way sharper than the old DSLR lenses.
If you're shooting with Nikon's 24-70 VR DSLR lens, upgrading will definitely improve your contrast when shooting in backlit situations. And since the Nikon Z cameras have sensor stabilization built in, you'll still have those stabilized shots for keeping it sharp when shooting handheld.
The Nikon 24-70 f2.8s is so much sharper than the 24-70 VR. At 24mm, the difference is even greater than at 70mm. At the center, at the corners, everywhere.
If you wanted to save money and shoot with the DSLR lenses, you could, because the FTZ converter works really well with their older lenses, but the new lenses are wonderful. I have the old Nikon 600 f4 prime, but the new one also has a built-in teleconverter, so you don't have to remember to bring one with you. So that's really cool too.
Yeah, if Nikon actually starts shipping it.
Ship it.
But whether you're using
Ship it to me,
the
baby.
mirrorless or the
That's not happening.
D850, like KEH has lots of lenses that you can choose from, and they come with a 21-day return period and 180-day warranty. You know that they've been tested and repaired, so there's no risk. Whether you're buying used gear from KEH or selling your gear to them so it can have a new life, use our links and our codes to get a 5% coupon or a 5% bonus on stuff that you sell.
We are still working on our full review of the Nikon Z8, so let us know what you'd like to know, if you have any questions, if you'd like anything tested or retested, and we'll do the best that we can. Subscribe so you can see that.
Yeah, but I do feel comfortable saying if you have the budget, upgrading from the D850 to a Z8 is pretty much a good move for anybody, no matter what you're shooting. So congrats, Nikon. So far, the Z8 is looking great.
I'm happy for Nikon, and I'm really happy for us.
Let's hope it stops some of the hate. All right, bye.